Hi guys, so Anne Widdecombe was in Dromore, County Down, along with friend Ben Habib and other members of Reform UK to team up with Jim Allister of the TUV to, let me check, save the Union. On the surface, none of this makes sense. Brexiteers who campaigned to leave the EU either didn't know or didn't care about what that impact would have on Northern Ireland are now complaining about a direct consequence of Brexit. However, I think this is all about damaging the Tories in England and undermining the DUP in Northern Ireland. And Anne pretty much spelled that out in this interview.
What brings you to Dromore tonight?
To save the Union, basically. We believe in Reform UK and the TUV believe that it's quite wrong that Northern Ireland should still be subject to some EU law that the rest of the UK isn't.
The reason Northern Ireland is subject to EU law is because Northern Ireland is part of the single market when it comes to goods. This is the result of Brexit. Anne knows this. GB is outside the single market. Northern Ireland is in the single market. So if you're selling goods from Great Britain into the single market, then of course there will be some sort of checks carried out. Now, a lot of these checks have been reduced, but there is still a lot of paperwork. Now, the alternative to that is to scrap Brexit, but Anne isn't a supporter of that. And the other alternative, of course, is a hard border on the island of Ireland. Now, Anne Widdecombe and Reform UK have been very quiet about that. Do they support a hard border on the island of Ireland? Because if they do, then they're in conflict with the Good Friday Agreement.
Northern Ireland is part of the UK. The Union should mean that it's exactly equal to the rest of the UK and isn't treated differently in any way. And when you go into a shop and you see not for sale in Northern Ireland on something that has been produced in Britain, you think, hang on, what is all this about?
Instead of asking, what is that all about? Why don't you actually investigate into what that's all about? What is that all about? Well, for many years, also before Brexit, listen now, for businesses, it wasn't worth their while the extra cost of shipping to Northern Ireland. So many businesses said, sorry, we don't ship to Northern Ireland on their website or when they were giving out information because of the extra cost. Because it's across the sea. You actually have to ship things across the sea, and that's an extra cost, especially for small businesses. They say, look, it's not worth our while. We only ship within Great Britain, so England, Scotland and Wales. We don't ship to Northern Ireland. That has been the case for many years. Now, she could also be confusing not for sale in EU. That's something completely separate. Like the first not for sale in Northern Ireland has nothing to do with Brexit, nothing to do with the Union. It's to do with the geographical location of Northern Ireland. But not for sale in EU is something that was designed to pander to unionists, where you have GB businesses paying extra for pointless paperwork or pointless packaging.
So what we're about is re-establishing, if you like, full union.
And you say you're...
Okay, what does that mean? Re-establish full union. Northern Ireland is part of the United Kingdom. That hasn't changed. It's part of the single market when it comes to goods, but the people of Northern Ireland, their status has not changed. There is still the same currency. There are still the same political parties. The head of state is still the royal family, the king. So what has changed apart from Northern Ireland being part of the single market?
Here tonight to save the Union, but in all honesty, what will this tonight achieve in that goal?
Well, obviously, we're not going to save the Union tonight. I mean, that's really rather obvious.
Once again, how is the Union under threat? Apart from what Brexit has done to it. Because once again, these are not Remainers. These are not people saying, look, the Union has been damaged by Brexit. We're here to fix that. No, these are people who still want Brexit. These are people who are still in the under the impression that Brexit is a good idea, good for the Union. Like, we told you so. We told you there would be these problems.
But we are going to get a movement going. We are going to get it into people's consciousness that there are politicians who still do want proper union, and that we will defend Northern Ireland as part of the UK. That's the beginning tonight. No, we're not going to save the Union in one fell swoop, but that's the beginning.
What way should we look at this partnership with the TUV and Reform now?
Well, we had hoped that the DUP were going to be solid in their determination for the union, but they weren't. They went with the Windsor framework. And so it was far more logical to join up with a really, really determined group in the TUV are.
Okay. So as I said at the beginning, this is about trashing the DUP. Because the TUV, which are more extreme than the DUP, are looking on at the disaster that's facing the DUP at the moment and saying, oh, there's an opportunity for us to win over support. Now, whether they'll actually win a seat in Westminster, I don't know. I don't think it's actually possible. But it's about winning support. It's about the internal battle within unionism. And Reform UK can benefit from this because they can say, look, there's our friends over there in Northern Ireland fighting the DUP, defending the union, while we're in Great Britain defending the union as well from the Tories. So we would deliver a Brexit where the union would be protected. The Tories and Labour are not interested in delivering that. And for the TUV in Northern Ireland, it benefits them greatly because they have a pretty powerful ally on board, because we're talking about a very, very small party. And Reform are still a small party, but they can lend a star power, if you want to call that, and Widdecombe and Ben Habib and others, they can lend this sort of star power to the TUV, and this can help them undermine the DUP. So in a sense, the DUP are being undermined by the TUV in Northern Ireland, and the Tories are being undermined by Reform in Great Britain. Will they succeed? I don't know. It depends on what succeeding means. For what success means for Reform UK, it's about pushing the Conservatives further to the right economically, and for the TUV, it's about stealing votes or taking votes away from the DUP, and perhaps even winning a seat in Westminster. Let me know in the comment section, guys, what you think. As always, your comments are greatly appreciated. Thanks a lot.